Hello, I'm Raj Chengappa from India Today, and I have with me a special guest, Rajeev Chandrasekhar, Minister of State for Information Technology, Electronics, Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. But Rajeev, we'll focus this time on what the Prime Minister said about deepfakes. While speaking to journalists, he warned of this menace, and there is a new threat that's there, and we need to do it. So what is the... Firstly, let's look at the threat itself. What is the extent of this threat, and why should we be worried?
Thank you, Raj, for having me on the show, and thank you for taking up this topic. I think certainly we have been aware, and certainly people in the ministry and the government have been aware of the underlying rise, if you want to call it that, of this underlying phenomenon, disturbing phenomenon of what is largely referred to as misinformation. The ability to weaponize misinformation, disinformation, false information with the objective of creating unrest, of the objective of creating a fake narrative. And this has been something that we have spotted quite some years ago, and the Honorable Prime Minister had talked about this, and we had made it the government's mission to ensure that our policies are all aimed at creating a safe and trusted and accountable internet. So safety and trust of the internet has become now an issue that people are aware of because of all the harms, cyber crimes and all of that have in a sense turned on its head the earlier narrative that internet and technology was all about good.
Right.
Now, when you now fast forward and extrapolate all of those problems and then overlay that with this power of this really once in a lifetime invention of artificial intelligence, then you have really a perfect storm in the making that is going to be extremely disruptive, extremely worrying. Right. And I'm very glad and I'm very pleased and I'm very thankful to the Honorable Prime Minister to, in a sense, to raise this issue and create a national awareness about this. Because a lot of us in the tech space are aware of this. A lot of us in the ministry are aware of this. And we have attempted over the last 2 years to create rules and regulations to regulate against misinformation. But this phenomenon of deepfakes, which is really a marriage of AI and the misinformation industry, is certainly something that all of us should be worried about because it really is very potent for individuals, for societies, for communities and countries.
Let's take some examples. In politics, we have an election running now in 4 states or 5 states. What is the dangers, and as we get to the general election, 2024, which will be the big one, what are the dangers that deepfake will pose to political parties?
No, look, the misinformation in itself poses a big challenge to the democratic process, to an open and free election, and that has been seen in the Brexit vote where Facebook was weaponized by some people to create misinformation and targeted misinformation. And now in the world of AI and the world of deepfakes are the manifestation of misinformation using AI. Right. So first of all, that is the definition. Deepfakes imply a very, very dangerous way of misleading people who are increasingly consuming only video with YouTube and your own websites and all of that, where video consumption has become almost the norm. Now you imagine if I put a video of Raj Chengappa, very authentic video, but Raj Chengappa is saying something very communal, very insightful, very wrong.
God forbid, I'm not...
but you get the point. I really want to talk about it in your context and my context and normal people's context, and not necessarily only through the prism of politics. Because if you are saying something wrong or foul-mouthed about somebody, and that person consumes it, without any understanding of whether this is genuine or there is even a propensity of it being fake, can you imagine the reaction? Now take that same phenomenon and multiply it by a factor of 100,000 and say a political leader today says something, or a video of a political leader saying something that is completely atrocious, completely lying, and in the backdrop of the polarization that politics has anyway created, and a lot of people with lies and politics of lies, imagine what that could do. It is really like a matchbox to, sort of a ignite passion. So deepfakes are extremely important to understand and deal with because A, it creates a wrong narrative when there is truth that is to be dealt with. It creates a fake narrative and a convincingly much more powerful narrative than just simply typing something. On the other hand, the deepfake has the ability to arouse passions and incite and create disorder and law and order and public order challenges of a kind that is going to be extremely difficult for people to predict and understand. So weaponization of misinformation, which used to be a problem, is a problem, takes on a different dimension and different scale with deepfakes. So it is extremely important that we understand this.
Now, you had also mentioned platforms that, like social media platforms, that put it out. What is the government telling them to do in terms of, whether it's Facebook, whether YouTube, some of the popular ones that we have here, Yahoo and others? What is it that you're saying that...
Look, one of the things that I must say that in this particular case, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government has been ahead of the curve. Right. We came out, the IT rules that came out in May of 2021, then were amended in October of 2022, and new amended IT rules that came out in February 2023, all talk about safety and trust of the internet. Right. It casts an obligation on all these platforms and makes it their responsibility to make sure that the content online on their platforms is not misinformation. Right. So therefore, there is under IT rules, and I don't want to bore your viewers with the details, but under Rule 31B, there are 11 issues that platforms cannot put on their platforms. Child sexual abuse material, for example, insightful content on the other side, patent violative content on the third side. But at the center of it, there is 31B5, which says misinformation, patently false information, they cannot carry on their platforms. If they carry on their platforms misinformation or deepfakes, then they are liable to be prosecuted under the Act, because the safe harbor, which is the protection, the immunity that they have, will fall away.
Can you just describe safe harbor for a lay audience, and by removing it, how does it...
So one of the things that we have to understand is that the act, the law that governs the internet and therefore these platforms is an IT Act. Right. It is a 22-year-old act. It was done in the time of Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji in 2000, and then was subsequently amended during the UPA in 2008. One of the amendments that was put in the IT Act in 2008, in a blind following of the US model, was something called Section 79, which gives essentially immunity from any kind of prosecution to any internet platform. The narrative there at that time was that these platforms are not responsible for the content on their platform because some user does it. So therefore, if you have to prosecute somebody, prosecute the user and not the platform. It's a clever way they manage that. I was on the IT committee those days, and I was the only one who opposed this for whatever it matters now. It's academic. But that safe harbor has caused platforms to not have a sense of good behavior or an obligation of good conduct. Right. So we now see this toxicity, and at every instance of toxicity, the government unfortunately becomes the arbiter of a dispute between the platform and a user. Right. And I think it is clear with the IT rules now that we say that this safe harbor is conditional, and conditional on them addressing these 11 types of content which they cannot have on their platforms. And the way we will now regulate deepfakes is very simple. It is in the rules that we enacted in February 2023. If any platform has a deepfake, whether it's a messenger platform or a social media platform, and they have it on the platform despite their obligation not to put these kind of contents, but when it is reported to them there is such a deepfake, and they have 36 hours to remove it. If they do not, then the safe harbor falls away, and whoever is aggrieved, Chengappa is aggrieved or Rajeev Chandrasekhar is aggrieved by the deepfake, can take them to court and criminally prosecute them for under the IPC and under the IT Act.
And what is the term in that? Is it just a fine, or is it also
it is criminal. A impersonation of a person is a cognizable offence under the IPC. So therefore, there are many provisions under the criminal law that they were protected against by the safe harbor that was in place since 2008 which is the amendment during the UPA. That safe harbor now has been made conditional on their good conduct. And we will certainly, we are going to have a meeting with all the platforms on the 24th of this month. We will lay out how we consider the risk of deepfakes and misinformation to be a very severe risk, severe challenge, severe danger to the safety and trust obligation that we believe we owe to the people of India and to the users of the Indian internet. And we will lay out for them that we will not hesitate for every instance of the deepfake, to ensure that the Rule 7 under the IT rules, which is the withdrawal of the safe harbor, will be invoked for them to be prosecuted in a court of law by whichever citizen or organization is aggrieved by the deepfake.
And what would be that you mentioned November 24th? How would the government go about it?
No, the government will has a standard operating procedure. We have been obviously taking a line that we wanted to create a fact-check unit. The rules have been enacted already and they are notified. We wanted a fact-check unit that would help the industry, help the platforms know what is wrong or right. That unfortunately got hijacked by some colleagues of yours in the editorial council saying it's an infringement of the freedom of speech, etc., etc. And it went to court. That matter has been heard by the Mumbai High Court, and we hope that they will certainly rule on that issue of the fact-check unit, because the fact-check unit was developed as an idea to help platforms to understand what is right and wrong. If there is a video of, let us say, Rajeev Chandrasekhar as a minister or any other minister or any other politician saying something, certainly there should be some person to be able to tell them and guide them that this is false, for them to then act.
I think the concern was that the government was going to control much of it, that it should be an independent authority.
Again, Raj, unfortunately, and I say this with a great deal of responsibility, there is this, we conflate free speech with, we try and conflate free speech with, we necessarily think of these as binaries, that either it is free speech or it is some sort of a censorship. That is not true. Under Article 19(2) of our Constitution, there are reasonable restrictions on free speech that have been placed by those who amended Article 19 Jawaharlal Nehru's time. So therefore, in India, unlike the US First Amendment, free speech is not an unfettered absolute right. There are things that you cannot say in the name of free speech. And everything we are doing in terms of the law and the policy is consistent with 19(2). And therefore, there is no argument that there is a censorship. This is really about making sure deep fakes, misinformation, which are a clear and present danger to the safety and trust and orderly nature of the Indian internet, are dealt with in a manner where the platforms are held accountable under the law, not by the government, under the law, where they have the right to pleading their case in a court against whoever is aggrieved by the deepfake or the misinformation.
Now, while the technology for developing deepfakes is progressing rapidly, you can actually buy apps and do it, I'm told. Are there technologies which you've asked the social media to provide to detect deepfakes? Which is, you immediately know that...
and this is one of the characteristics of technology in general, Raj, which is that you will have an innovation and there will be harms out of the innovation, and then the technology to police the harms of the innovation will be the next innovation. So this is always playing lead and catch up. It is true for the last 20 years, it's going to be true for the next decade. The difference in this case is that AI is today exponentially growing in terms of its impact at a rate that nobody has anticipated, that the impact will be so deep, so widespread, and its application will be so easily possible, is all something that people are all, in a sense, caught unawares by the pace at which this is going. So I think the platforms are also very clearly working frantically to play catch up with their own technology, with their own tools. I heard recently Microsoft offer to the US government and the US political class that they have tools that can prevent deepfakes impacting the US election. So they are obviously playing catch up, and Microsoft is interesting because they are on both sides of this. They are OpenAI, that is the ChatGPT sponsor, as well as creating tools for dealing with deepfakes. So I think, look, we will work with these platforms. and we will certainly make it very clear to echo and amplify PM's message that this is an issue that cannot be dealt with in a lethargic manner. We have to have a sense of urgency, we have to have a sense of purpose, and we have a sense of real clear outcomes in terms of what technology, what tools will be deployed, and what the regulatory framework of accountability will be. That all of that should become very clear in the coming weeks, hopefully.
What is your understanding of the pace of technology towards actually detecting deepfakes?
I think a lot of work is already going into it. I know that many of the underlying companies that create video editing suites, the Adobes of the world, a lot of these companies are also developing their own solutions to prevent easy deepfaking, and on the event you can deepfake, to be able to identify and detect deepfakes.
I'm told they're losing the race in the sense the number of apps that are doing deepfakes versus the number that could actually detect.
That is always the nature of this beast of technology, Raj. It will always be innovation. Then some people will figure out how to create harm and criminality from the innovation. We saw that in blockchain. Blockchain was supposed to be a distributed ledger, and suddenly we had crypto and money laundering coming out of it. And then governments caught up, technology caught up, came down on it, and we put the brakes on that. So it'll be almost similar cycles that we can anticipate for the next decade. Today it is AI, tomorrow it will be something else. But having clarity in the government about what we expect from the platforms that occupy the Indian internet is a very important starting point, and that we have.
And that clarity you're telling them?
Absolutely, we are telling them. We have the laws in place, we have the rules in place. We have absolutely no hesitation in invoking Rule 7 and the withdrawal of safe harbor, and we will certainly expose more and more platforms to being prosecuted in the court of law by the citizens who are aggrieved, and we will certainly use the safe harbor to protect our citizens very judiciously. That message has gone, will be re-amplified on the 24th when I meet with these platforms. But the technology race to catch up, to inhibit the deepfake creation momentum, as well as to be able to detect deepfakes, is a work in progress, and we will see soon. I am very confident that we will see soon. I have already met 3 or 4 startups working in India who are working on some very, very nifty ideas on how to detect deepfakes. So we have not been defeated so far by the big techs. We'll certainly not be defeated by the deepfakes.
No, the other point was, I think the Prime Minister also mentioned, is labeling.
Yes.
That is, when we do a Photoshop in, say, in a magazine or this thing, we say it is a Photoshop. Is there a way of bringing that
No,
into the...
see, Raj, there is an interesting problem that platforms will now have to solve. Right. Because what the Prime Minister said is absolutely right, and it has to be done. Now, the problem with these platforms is they have enjoyed almost a perfect storm of being unaccountable. One is the safe harbor, and the second, interestingly, is that they allow anonymous use of their platforms. They say that we are not responsible, but at the same time allow anonymous use of the platform. Now, if I'm a platform and I have somebody who's determined to do a deepfake, I'm certainly not leaving my signature at the end of it like Da Vinci on Mona Lisa. Right. So he's going to do the deepfake. He wants to weaponize his deepfake. He is allowed by the platform to anonymously use the platform, and he will post that deepfake, and the impact that will go viral, create the havoc. And before these IT rules of this government, the case was that the platforms would say, no, but I'm immune. Right. But who has done this? But he's anonymous. So it was like a very interesting place where the cyberspace of the internet were, where laws could not reach and bad behavior would have no consequences. That has been changed. We are saying bad conduct, bad actors will have consequences. Deepfakes certainly characterize or qualify as being an extremely visible way of demonstrating bad conduct and bad actors.
So, in some ways, bringing some rules to clarify that when you manipulate a video, you will
Raj,
mention.
I think it is something that platforms will now automatically start having to do, because it's a choice that they will have. Either they will get prosecuted for the deepfakes, or they will put into place a system of doing more due diligence of who are their users. Right. And if they do due diligence on the users and say, as terms of service, we mandate you that when you do a modified video, you label it. If they don't do that, then it is their neck on the line.
Right,
So, because
you can get prosecuted
exactly.
for it.
So it is really, we are in a sense through our rules and laws incentivizing good behavior, good conduct on part of the platforms, and hopefully making and urging and nudging these platforms to ensuring that they are able to track what their users do and are able to label and flag bad conduct by their users. Currently, it's a free-for-all. They enjoy all the revenues, they enjoy the scale and size, and they believe that they don't have any accountability. That since 2021 has been very systematically altered.
And finally, you had been to London recently on AI and discussed some of the dangers of that. If you come to AI, I mean, beyond deepfakes, what are the concerns that are there? And, there's certain good, there's a lot of evil that could come out of it.
Good question, Raj. It is very satisfying. Bletchley Park, which is, of course, where Alan Turing, the legendary Alan Turing broke the Enigma code during World War II, and is the heart of decryption, is a place where the UK government had the AI Safety Summit. And I'm very happy to report to you that the principles that the Prime Minister of India have enshrined in our policy making towards tech, which is openness, safety and trust, and accountability, guiding all policy making and all rule making, is exactly the language that today the 28 countries that met in Bletchley Park spoke about in the context of AI.
And you're going to have a big conference in Delhi next month, in December. What will that focus on, and where do you hope to take the
India will be the incoming chair of the GPA of 2023, and GPA is a global partnership of AI. A large number of countries form the coalition of people who talk about AI and the future of AI. And we think the 3-day conference, which will be inaugurated by our Prime Minister, will set the tone for continuing the conversation in Bletchley, and in a sense, taking it further in terms of what is the future of AI, what should we all aspire to in terms of the good of AI, what should be the guardrails in terms of how do we all work together to prevent the bad of AI from affecting our people, affecting our businesses, and what should be the institutional framework going forward to make sure that AI is harnessed, the power of AI is harnessed, but the bad of AI is put a brake on. So I think these are the broad topics that we will talk about, and I'm looking forward to it, and I hope all of you also participate in this.
We'll certainly be there. And finally, on the fact that there's been so much controversy over AI, there have been a whole range of scientists who've said we should limit AI and there should be brakes on that. Where do you stand on this? You've studied the subject.
Look,
would you say, hang on, we need to
no, Raj,
wait?
I am of the view, and I said this in Bletchley in my closing remarks, I said we should be very careful not to demonize AI. There's always going to be a conspiracy theorist about every technology and every innovation. We should not demonize AI. I particularly, and the government and the Prime Minister's vision is very clear on this, we think AI can be harnessed for a lot of good in our country. Language translation, agriculture, healthcare, there are so many areas, real life use cases of AI can transform lives of people, transform their future, and in many, many areas. So we must focus on that. However, we should also be aware there are trends in AI that are very unlike many other technologies that can be extremely disruptive and cause harm and cause a lot of other downstream impact. Therefore, we should have clear legal guardrails, not self-voluntary, self-regulatory guardrails, legal guardrails that prescribe to every AI platform what they cannot trespass into, what they cannot get into. And so therefore, I think our thinking is very clear on it. But like I said, nobody in this world of technology can survive as an island. No country can, however great or big or powerful they may be. And it requires countries of the world, especially like-minded countries like India and democracies around the world, to cooperate to make sure that this harnessing of the good really does happen, and the partnership to put the brake on the harms also happen.
So you're not looking at a brake of AI. A lot of scientists said, hang on,
no,
this is
our
getting out of
stated-
hand.
our-
Sam
our-
Altman also has been...
No, that's fine. Look, everybody has a view, and as you know, technology is, AI is certainly the buzzword now, and so everybody has a view, and we should respect everybody's view. But our view, Government of India's view, Prime Minister's view, is that technology must be harnessed for the good of our people. And we are certainly viewing AI as a kinetic enabler of our digital economy, kinetic enabler of our digital capabilities, and kinetic enabler of our mission as a Government of India to transform the lives of our people.
Rajeev Chandrasekhar, thank you very much. We could go on for a while
Thank you.
on this one. It's been very good talking to you on this one.
Thank you, Raj. Thank you so much.